Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers act and say they high, say they sipping pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl, somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick. With a forceful grip, they force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature to mean extorted it. They forging it, if news anchors informants who informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this, we porting ships important gifts. Of course it is, but extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informing this, informing this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers act and say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?
In a world. Hope you guys are enjoying the Kingdom Crew virtual conference. I'm honored to be on the list with so many other legends and epic speakers. If you don't know who I am, my name is Austin. I go by Witsit Gets It on YouTube. If you do know who I am, you know I've stepped away for a bit. I've been MIA, just had to take a breather. But what better time to come back than with the familia at Kingdom and Context. So again, I'm honored to be here and thank you guys for having me. I put together a quick presentation about biblical cosmology, what I consider to be one of the most intriguing conversations that there is. certainly when you begin to realize that the truth is right in front of you, and you really just have to take the scriptures for what they say in context, go prove them to be true, and all the pieces begin to fall in place. So hopefully you guys find it edifying. I tried not to get too in the weeds, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, here is Biblical Cosmology. All right, let's start with a verse. Let Yah be true, but every man a liar. Romans 3:4. I think almost everyone here has assuredly heard that verse. I think it is very applicable to this conversation, as we will soon find out. All right, so let's start from the beginning. Genesis 1:1-2. Now, some argue maybe this isn't literally the beginning, as you have Enoch. And side note, it does say in the end that they will err in their ways concerning the stars, and that it will be concealed from the sinners. So Genesis 1:1-2 says, in the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. Now, I underlined waters here. I have water in the background because I think it is one of the most pivotal details when trying to figure out exactly what this realm is. And I think it is oftentimes overlooked. A few things to take note of here is you see earth, and we have been indoctrinated to interpret earth as an object. We think of earth as a rock in a space with all these other rocks. It's an object, earth, object, entirety of where we live, the trees, the birds, the animals, the water, the land. But really, if you look at Hebrew, you're going to see that earth is land. It's soil, it's dirt, it is the land. And that the land was without form, and that there was darkness upon the face of the deep. The deep what? And the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. And of course, we know that if I pour a glass of water, it's always going to seek its level. It's going to find level. It's going to have a face. Okay, so that is just to give you some context here. I'm going to emphasize the importance of water. I think it is the key to understanding a bit about where we live. So if you look here, you see the heavens, Hashamayim. And then if you see here of the waters, Hamayim, the waters, Mayim. So the word water in Hebrew is literally in the word heaven in Hebrew. It's part of heaven, literally. The heavens, the waters, Mayim, Hamayim, Hashamayim, the heavens. So it's right in front of us the whole time. That water is very pivotal to understanding what creation is. As we see in the beginning, he created heaven and the earth was without form. And then it says that he basically hovered or moved over the face of the waters, the Mayim. Okay. And this is important for the context of the entire presentation. Psalms 118:8. It is better to trust in Yah than to put confidence in man. And this is easier said than done in modern times, when almost everything that in this context, quote unquote, science claims to be true, man, and modern science is effectively a religion, right? It is a doctrine of men, and it's built upon belief and claims that man makes, claims they could never know. So it is better to trust in Yah than to put confidence in man. Of course, the Creator is going to know more about what he created than we are. Okay, what does the world tell us about where we live then? What does man tell us about it? Well, it tells us this is where we live. On this tiny little speck of dust, this insignificant rock tucked away in the corner of this ever-expanding vast universe, spinning over 1,000 miles per hour, while we're wobbling, tilted on a 66.6 degree axis, while the Earth is orbiting the sun 66,600 miles per hour, and flying through the galaxy over 1,000,000 miles per hour. If you notice, I said the Earth because we were taught to view where we live as an object, and we call that object Earth. When Earth in the scriptures is actually talking about the land. There's a distinction. Okay, so that's what the world tells us about where we live. What do the scriptures tell us about where we live? Well, it says that he set the earth on its foundations and it can never be moved. Psalms 104:5. It says the earth is firm and immovable. Psalms 96:10. It says that when the earth and all its people quake, he holds its pillars firm. Psalm 75:3. He says he fixed it on foundation so that it can never be shaken. Psalms 104:5. It says that where we reside, and oftentimes it uses the word earth, the land in which we reside is firmly established on foundations and pillars, and it cannot be moved. Now, this is distinctly in contrast to what the world says, right? As it tells us that we're tilted, wobbling, spinning, revolving, flying through space. So these are distinctly different. So who are we gonna believe? Well, let's see. So let's start with what do we experience? And you can apply what's called Occam's razor here, right? That which requires the least amount of assumptions. Now, that is not a bulletproof, logical path to finding truth, but it is always the most logical starting point. So what do we experience? Well, we experience exactly what the scriptures say, that the earth doesn't move. I mean, to such an extent that when there is some type of vibratory movement that we call earthquakes, we notice them because it actually goes from its stationary state to where there is now vibrational displacement within the foundation that is not moving. And we notice it. We call it an earthquake. We're able to measure that movement. I mean, look, these rocks can sit here perpetually. So what we experience is we are not moving. Rather, the stuff in the sky is moving. And this is a time lapse of the sun near the Arctic. And you can see we're not moving. The camera's just sitting still. You see the clouds moving. You see the water rippling. You see the sun going in a circle around us moving. So what we experience, of course, is that the earth is stationary. That's the default position. That's what we experience. So as it stands right now, what we experience day to day with our senses and our experiences actually match what the scriptures say about the earth. That's where we stand right now as the default. You've never felt the earth moving. So let's see. How do we justify claiming that it is moving? Well, what does the evidence say? And I want to point out, again, we actually just covered the base evidence, right? Because the alternative claim on the table by man, by the world, is that this is the earth and that it's an object, it's a sphere in a vacuum, that's spinning over 1,000 miles per hour, but you just can't feel it and you just can't tell. And that makes the stuff in the sky look like it's moving, but none of it is actually moving. It just looks like it's moving because we are. We're tilted and wobbling 3 different wobbles, however that works, but we can't tell. And it's on a 66.6 degree tilted axis, but we can't tell. And it's orbiting around the sun, and we can't tell. It's going 66,600 miles per hour around the sun once a year, and you can't tell. And simultaneously, it's flying over 1,000,000 miles per hour. Okay, so that's the claim on the table. So what's the evidence say? Because we just covered that the default with our experiences and all physical evidence ever is that we're not moving. Right? So they must establish that that's actually all backwards. Everything that we experience. All attempts to measure the motion of the earth or of the alleged motion of the earth throughout history have failed. And this goes back to let Yah be true and every man a liar. Right? So basically, where we're at right now is if the earth is in fact a tilted, wobbling, spinning, revolving ball, the creator has effectively placed us in an existence that deceives us as the base, like as the default. We're deceived. Our senses tell us that we're not moving, but actually we're moving at insanely immense speeds that are compounding on top of each other. So we need to verify that that's the case. If that's the case, right? Well, every attempt ever to do that has been unsuccessful. And don't take my word for it. We'll go with the infamous Albert Einstein here. To the question whether or not the motion of the earth in space can be made perceptible, detectable in terrestrial experiments, meaning experiments on Earth, we have already remarked in section 5 that all attempts of this nature led to a negative result. Before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to become reconciled to this negative result. I have a couple quotes in here just to show you it's not just me saying that they've always been unsuccessful. It's just the actual facts, right? One of the most famous experiments was in 1887, Michelson-Morley. They had these 2 light beams, and they went perpendicular to each other. And if we're really revolving around the sun, 66,600 miles per hour, well, then the light beam that is going with the direction of the movement of Earth should take a different time to get to the receiver than the other light beam. One's moving with it, one's moving against it, so they should take different times because the one moving against it has to travel further. So that's what they expected to see here, is that one would be behind, but they didn't see that. They saw that they were actually very close to being exactly the same. So what they said was, oh, the length itself, the distance actually contracted. And the apparatus you're measuring with contracted, and you just can't tell. So now we're at, oh, the earth is tilted. You can't tell. The earth is wobbling 3 different wobbles. You can't tell. The earth is spinning 1,000 miles per hour. You can't tell. The earth is orbiting around the sun, but you can't tell. The earth is flying 1,000,000 miles per hour, but you can't tell. The stuff in the sky is actually not moving, but you can't tell. And you're actually falling backwards during a sunset. You just can't tell. And when you try to measure this movement that you can't actually ever find, well, there's this crazy phenomena that happens where whatever you're using to try to measure this movement of the earth around the sun, it contracts just the right amount to make it look like the earth isn't moving again, so you can't tell. So in this scenario, the creator has placed you here and tactically deceived you and confused you as the default. Here's another quote from Albert Einstein to put it into context. This is in relation to the test we just discussed, which again is called Michelson-Morley. That's Albert Michelson, Edward Morley, two people did a very famous test. It's called the most famous failed experiment in history. But when I was a student, I saw that experiments of this kind had already been made, in particular by your compatriot Michelson. He proved that one does not notice anything on Earth that it moves, but that everything takes place on Earth as if the Earth is in a state of rest. And again, you see how it's always the Earth as if it's an object, it's a rock. And it minimizes the majesty required to create this beautiful realm that we're in. You know, and when you really step back and humble yourself and observe this realm, you realize, whoa, I could never fully understand this place. It minimizes what the Creator made for us. That's what it does. It objectifies it. So here he is admitting everything happens on this place like nothing's moving, as if the earth isn't moving. The land we're on, the ground we stand on doesn't move. I mean, that's what everything is going to happen, as if the earth is at rest. And you will have people say, oh, gyroscopes, pendulums. No. According to the best excuse people have come up with in the highest levels of science to explain that supposedly the earth is moving, you can't tell, and everything happens as if the earth is at rest, stationary, immovable and fixed, firmly founded. Isn't that interesting? So just a couple more quotes, and I won't bore you guys too much with this guy. But he says here, the struggle so violent in the early days of science between the views of Ptolemy and Copernicus would then be quite meaningless. Ptolemy, of course, said that the earth was stationary and in the center, and Copernicus said that it was insignificant and it occupied no special position and it was going around the sun. It says either coordinate system could be used with equal justification. The two sentences, the sun is at rest and the earth moves, or the sun moves and the earth is at rest, would simply mean two different conventions concerning two different coordinate systems. So he's saying that they're equally valid. They can both be used with equal justification. Now, that's his claim, as we just covered. Actually, the default, of course, is we can take a time lapse of the sun going in a circle around us in 24 hours, give or take. So I'm not sure where you get equal justification here, because we haven't even found any evidence that there's movement whatsoever. I mean, admittedly, from the same guy, you can't find that evidence. But again, this is just a concession that they're equally valid in his assumed theory that they're moving. I think this is the last one, maybe one more quote. While I was thinking of this problem in my student years, I came to know the strange result of Michelson's experiment. Soon I came to the conclusion that our idea about the motion of the earth with respect to the ether is incorrect. If we admit Michelson's null result as a fact, which it is a fact, it's been replicated thousands of times. I mean, hundreds of thousands of times. And you can get into Dayton Miller, and I cover a lot of that on my channel. This was the first path which led me to the special theory of relativity. Since then, I have come to believe that the motion of the earth cannot be detected by any optical experiment, though the earth is revolving around the sun. So basically, you can't tell. It's always going to look like it's stationary. There's no way to measure it. There's no experiment that you can do on the earth or with any optical measurements to ever actually measure or detect this. But I promise it's happening. Okay. I'm going to need a little bit more than that to just turn my back on what the Creator says happens and what I experience all day, every day, and what all evidence ever says. I mean, that's something's not adding up. So we're out of the quote land now with this last one here. The problem which now faced science was considerable. This is in the context of Michelson-Morley, the problem that faced science after the Michelson-Morley experiment. For there seemed to be only three alternatives. The first was that the earth was standing still. which meant scuttling the whole Copernican theory and was unthinkable. What is the Copernican theory, you may ask? This is a little clip from Pure Indoctrination. So, whoa, very intense. The Copernican theory is the idea that the Earth's animation is not real. Because what they forgot to tell you is that every observation we've ever made in astronomy and astrophysics ever has made it look like where we're looking from is the center of the entire quote-unquote universe. I usually say the word cosmos. That means order. If you want to get more into what we're really talking about, we're going to say shamayim, right? We're going to say the heavens. And we'll get more into that in just a second. But so here, if you paid attention to that video, you see how insignificant it makes you feel. You're basically nothing. And this couldn't be further from the truth. It's wild. So this is a direct attack on the creator and what he created for you. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that's what the Copernican principle is. The idea that the Earth's not special. It's nothing special about it. You're insignificant. All right, let's move on. All right, so what else does the world tell us about where we live? Well, they claim there's something called the vacuum of space. And they say, now vacuums don't suck like the one you use in your home. The air just fills the empty space. So if you create a vacuum chamber, even though there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum, that's where you get the saying, nature abhors a vacuum. If you were to introduce gas in the proximity or vicinity of that vacuum chamber, it would violently fill the available space and seek equilibrium. And that's because everything in all of physics is summarized in everything seeks equilibrium. And if you wanted to throw the cherry on top, it's via pressure mediation. And in fact, that alone proves that there is a designer and a creator to this place, because the antecedent to order is intention. It is design. And the fact there's a natural order and everything seeking equilibrium requires a designer. But anyway, they claim that there's a vacuum of space. And this globe model claims that the Earth's atmosphere exists within this vacuum without the air pressure equalizing into the available space. And here you have this cartoon depiction, which is typically what you get if you're claiming some details about something that doesn't exist. And they claim that there are all these layers that go up into this vacuum of space. So that's what the world tells us, right? You have the troposphere, the ozone layer, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, the exosphere. That's what the world tells us about where we live. Okay, what do the scriptures tell us about where we live? Well, it says, and Yah said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So now we've come back to this word, mayim and hamayim, or shamayim, sorry. So you have hashamayim, and that is translated as heavens, and you have mayim, water. It's in the word. So it's all we're being told about from the jump of the creation account is water, 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 water. Water around us, around the land, water beneath us, water above us, that he hovered over the water, as if the water was there first, if you read Genesis in context. And so it's very interesting that this says that he said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters so that it will divide the heavenly waters from the quote unquote earthly waters, from the lower region of the realms waters. So basically, there's a distinction between the water here and above us according to the scriptures. So we see a stark contrast once again, right? The world tells us it's emptiness. And side note, it's interesting that they seem to take the bottomless pit idea and then just put it all around you. They take everything and seemingly inverted it. So we're starting to see a pattern here, as if, I don't know, an author of confusion has intentionally taken creation, wanted to minimize it and invert it, and then convince you of the inversion. So they say there's a bottomless pit in all directions, and scripture tells us there's water in all directions. So stark contrast. So if we think about all of this in context, and we go a little further in Genesis, you get, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Okay, so now we're talking about the windows of heaven opening up, the fountains of the great deep being broken, and now we're being bombarded from water from all directions. Water, water, water. It's a water world. So we've been told that the earth's an object, but in fact, earth is land and it's surrounded by water. Now, one question I've gotten discussing this is, well, what about he drew the circle? He drew a circle on the earth, right? Well, can you not draw a circle in water? Why could the creator not do that? Of course he could. That's what he said he did. So seemingly there's water everywhere, and there is containment. There's a barrier that contains this realm and its version or modality of water from the surrounding water. And just like we covered earlier, well, let Yah be true and every man be a liar. What was happening with Noah? They were saying these crazy, let's put it into modern terms, these crazy Christians, as they would call us, they think that it's going to start raining from the sky and there's going to be some flood because their creator's mad. What a crazy. Does this person not understand science? Water doesn't fall from the sky. Well, what happened? Well, the great deep was broken open. The fountains of the great deep were broken open, and the windows of heaven were opened. And sure enough, water fell from the sky, and it came from beneath. And, who was right in that scenario? Well, per usual, the creator was correct and man was wrong. And that's why we should put our faith in Yah, not in what man says. And he encourages, this is what's so beautiful about it, the mischaracterization that you are to be some blind, believing, religious zealot that can't think for himself and has to ignore evidence is far from the truth. He says, oh, go and test it. In fact, it would be my opinion, he encourages us to go and find the truth, as he states, to hold to that which is true, to prove things true. And I think he actually enjoys it. I think he likes seeing us going and discovering the accuracy and the beauty of his descriptions of what he made. So let's just go test it, right? I mean, if man's claiming the opposite over and over and over, and consistently they're wrong, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't stop that journey or that mentality, preemptively when it comes to where we live, regardless of ridicule. Noah was being ridiculed. So if you go to Genesis 9:13-15, you see, I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth, the inhabitants of the land. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you, and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. Okay, so the fountains of the deep were broken. We have the gates of heaven opening. We have water consuming the earth. We have people ridiculing Noah when he told them that it was going to happen. We have people believing in man and assuredly what they would have called science back then. And then we're given this sign called a rainbow to signify the covenant that Yah has with us, that he's not going to flood the earth like that again. Now, in the midst of this like grand delusion and deception that is modern cosmology and what people think the earth is, if you were to ask someone who says that they believe in the Bible, why does the rainbow signify it? I'm not really sure what their answer would be. I never had an answer. I never even thought about it. I just thought it's just a pretty thing in the sky that a lot of people can see. It happens a lot, so it's just a pretty reminder that he's not going to do it. He's not going to flood us again. I was never given any context. I thought that's as deep as it was, right? But now when we start to re-examine what we just assumed to be true because man arrogantly claimed to have known the entirety of this realm we live in and exactly what it's made of and how deep it goes beneath us and what its dimensions are and what its circumference and radius and tilt and movement and speeds and all of these things, minimizing where we live and they can understand it all. Well, when we set that aside and we start to look again, we're like, oh no, it says that there's a firmament in the midst of the waters. And it says that we're like grasshopper inhabitants within this firmament, that he stretched over top of us like a tent. We're like grasshopper inhabitants within this tent. And of course, rakia, where we get the word, is beaten out strong as bronze. So there's some physical protective containment that's separating the heavenly waters from the earthly waters. And at some point in time, gates were opened and it flooded. And so now we have a rainbow saying, hey, I'm not going to do that again. Well, when you start to really dig into this, and Kingdom in Context is an amazing channel for this, as is most of these speakers on here, you will see, oh, well, it seems like there are 7 layers to the firmament, if you want to call it that, or the heavens. There are layers, and it seems to be 7. And it seems like this detail was almost tactically suppressed and removed from the canonized texts and from modern understanding. And if you go Google it, I'm sure it'll tell you it's attributable to Hinduism or whatever. Well, many people understood that there seems to be 7 layers. What a coincidence, the rainbow has 7 colors. And so this was one of the biggest things that clicked with me once I realized it. And I thought it was so beautiful. I had to put it in here. And I know some of you guys probably have already discovered this, but this is a literal physical demonstration proving to us it's not going to flood again. It's showing you the containment is intact. This firmament that's in the midst of the waters, that holds back the waters that were at one point opened, it's still intact. It's like a science experiment, you know? It's like at the science fair. It's a lifetime demonstration showing you, oh no, look, it's still intact. That's why there are 7 colors. You got 7 layers. They each have their own purpose. They each have different things inside of in their layer. And it being intact holds the water back. There will not be another flood. And just so you have a constant reminder, here's the literal physical proof of it. So the rainbow is very important, and all of a sudden takes on a new light, pun not intended. That makes that puzzle piece fall in there pretty snug. All right. So to run it back from the top, in the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. Genesis 1, 1 through 2. And Yah said, let there be light. And there was light. And Yah saw the light that it was good. And Yah divided the light from the darkness. Now, side note, it seems to imply that the darkness was already there. And that he created the light. And now there was both light and darkness. And he saw that the light was good. And therefore he divided it from the darkness. Not to mean that the darkness was intrinsically bad, but he saw light itself was a good thing. It was a positive aspect of creation. And this falls right into line with some of the stuff I'll talk about more in depth on my channel, which is light is not what we've been told it is. And they cannot go towards a proper understanding of light in physics because of this belief system that the earth is what they claimed it was within their cosmological boundaries. And I don't want to get too complicated in this stream, but for those who maybe want to hear this, light is an excitation of the background or the absence of the equilibrium state. The state of equilibrium that some refer to as ether, which seems to be fluid-like, when it's excited, it becomes light. It's an excited version or modality of what was already there. And that's what science has demonstrated repeatedly up to this point in time in 2023. Well, that seems to start making a lot of sense. The creator excited this background, this canvas that he was painting on, and he created light. And he's like, oh, this light is good. I'll keep it separate from the darkness. There's light divided from the darkness. So it's an excitation of the background medium. The technical terminology would be a perturbation or a disturbance. That's not what this is about, but I did throw it in there because I find it very interesting. As you can see, it fits right in line with what you'll find out when you start to find, oh, well, no, the earth is actually stationary. That's that the land is stationary and actually it's surrounded by water. The realm that we inhabit is not moving. It's seemingly in the center of everything that's moving around us in the sky. And therefore, there is some type of background medium. And it's fluid-like. Okay. And Yah said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And Yah made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Genesis 1, 6 through 7. So we're a lot of talk about water again. You have the firmament dividing the waters above from the water here. And Yah called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And Yah said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And Yah called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And Yah saw that it was good. And interesting here, it just tells you the dry land he called earth. That's what earth is. It's the inhabitable land that is surrounded by water in all directions. And then there's the heavenly waters and the earthly waters. And the firmament, which he called heaven, is in the midst of these waters. And there are different layers. In my closing, I'm going to explain how science specifically corroborates and verifies all of this. But what is interesting is that it's all about water, and everything seems to have fluid-like properties when we dig deeper in science, which is interesting. So it point blank explains to you here, firmament, called it heaven. We've discovered that there seems to be multiple layers, and each layer has different, what people call celestial bodies, right? And then we have water everywhere, with the dry land being gathered up and being called earth. Genesis 1, 8 through 10. So we're back to, it's better to trust in Yah than to put confidence in man. Right? Because we found out that all these claims from man is falling on its face, is antithetical to all the evidence, and it doesn't actually hold any water. Right? And as time progresses, as more evidence is observed and discovered, he's correct again every single time. So I'm going to close with a bit of an explanation of a bunch of different pieces of evidence that kind of you can go look into yourself if you're new to this, or if you want to kind of piece some of the stuff I pointed out, even if you're not new to it. In my opinion, I think us really working together to piece together the importance of the water and the different modalities of water and what water is and how we're in a water world and we're surrounded by water, the deep beneath us, all around us in all directions, water, water, water. He hovered over the water, brought the land up out of it, and we were all tricked. Many of us that discovered that the globe earth was a deception, we were tricked into objectifying the earth. It's an object, minimizing the magnitude and magnificence of what it actually is, which is something that we're specifically told we will never fully understand, and we will never be able to measure or know the dimensions. And in fact, that's why there is no man with excuse, because all they have to do is honestly and humbly look around them, and they will know that there's a creator. So it's better to trust in Yah than to put confidence in man, because he's consistently correct. And so there is biblical cosmology specific to the biblical descriptions. And then I'm going to run through a few pieces of evidence with some specifics in case you are maybe new to the conversation, or you want to kind of get some context, scientific context for some of the stuff I said regarding the fluid-like properties or the water that's consistently invoked, even if you are not new to this subject. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the PowerPoint, and in closing, I'll just say there's all kinds of evidence that the Earth is not what they said it is, whether that's radio transmissions, microwave transmissions, long-distance observations, laser tests, interferometry, linear interferometry showing that the Earth is not tilted, wobbling, nor spinning, certainly not revolving, and that it's in the quote-unquote center. One thing I did want to kind of make clear is and I do think I was redundant about this, is that we've been tricked into calling the Earth as a holistic representation of some type of object, and they told us that they know what's 4,000 miles down and how big it is, and we're specifically told we're never going to be able to measure it. The Earth is not an object, and that minimizes how special it is. And so in that sense, quote-unquote, flat Earth has been a deception in the sense that it isn't an object, and it minimizes this beautiful place that was created for us. In fact, the Earth is the land. It was brought up out of the water, and then there was a flood as the gates of the firmament were opened, and there was water that came down, filled the earth, and covered up even the highest elevation. As the water began to reside, the highest land, or earth, then was up above the water again. That's why you're going to continue to find ruins in the ocean, because the antediluvian era had many civilizations that were at lower elevations and are currently accessible, in my opinion. And so the land is the dried, formed earth, or the earth is the dried, formed land. It isn't some object. So the idea that we need to create like a specific holistic representation of the earth is, in my opinion, still falling into the overall deception, which is minimizing this place that is mind-blowing. We'll never truly understand it. Water above us, water below us, so deep we can barely fathom even the idea. There are different modalities of water. Seemingly there's an increasing charge potential the higher you go, because there's a lot of energy coming from above us, from Yah and the entire heavenly realm above us in general. This creates electric potential, which gives us a downward bias, and then of course gas, which is also fluid, would be ionized, and that would give you plasma, because plasma is just ionized gas, and seemingly we have different layers of that. You may have something akin to a super solid, which is semi-permeable, but you'd have to be a certain frequency to get through it, that would contain this place and seemingly shaped within a magnetic field, or the magnetic field itself would shape plasma in theory, which is all fluid-like. All of this is fluid, all of it. And so there's different modalities of fluid, and it tells us heavenly waters, earthly waters. What a coincidence. What we find now is that almost everything seems to be slightly different modalities of the same thing, coming from the same primary substrate or source canvas, the background, that has fluid-like properties. And so all that to say, we don't need to fall into the trap of objectifying it. If you're new to the conversation that the earth may not be what you were told, this may be a beautiful time to come into the realization. Just trust that the Creator knows what He's talking about, and go test it. And He wants you to test it, and you're going to find out the evidence consistently supports what He said. Man's consistently wrong. Let's put our faith in Yah other than man, or over man. And what the beautiful thing about this, even though people will try to ridicule and be like, oh, you're just a religious zealot that denies modern science because you want to believe in the Bible, in reality, many people were brought back to the scriptures because they went and tested this. And so, like I said, I could go into detail about all of it. The Flat Earth 101 is, well, the default position is the Earth is stationary plane, and prove it's not. And you can't, because it is that. But the Earth is just land. And it takes shape like clay pressed under a sill, and its features stand out like a garment. Well, the land is basically like a sill, right? Like clay pressed under a sill. You have mountains and valleys, you have topography, because the earth is the dry land brought up out of the water, formed and brought up out of the water. He hovered over the water. There's water all around us. There could be a circle barrier within that water where the firmament comes down, and then there's a different type of water outside of that. But we need to step back and realize this place is incredible. They're coming out now at the highest levels of academia, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, you name it, astrophysics, astronomy, saying, oh, it looks like dark matter is actually super fluid. Of course, dark matter is the band-aid they needed for their stupid cosmology, but the point is that they're acknowledging there's way more water than they thought there was in space, and oh, it must be a superfluid. Well, yeah, because quote-unquote space is water. It's the heavenly waters. We're told what it was, and it's always been that, and it's been accurate for thousands of years, and it's still accurate. And so hopefully that was somewhat edifying for you guys, because I don't want to just go on this huge rant. But yeah, that was the point of the entire presentation, was to kind of maybe help you look at it a bit differently. We live in a water world, and there's water all around us, and there's land brought up out of it, and that's what the earth is. We can never fully objectify and understand it. So we need to stop falling for the trap of this dichotomy of globe versus flat earth object, because it is not an object that you can fully understand like that. That's not what earth means. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Shout out to all the legends on the list of speakers. I know you guys are crushing, going to continue to crush. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the conference. Shout out to my boy Sean for throwing this dope conference and having me on, man. I appreciate it so much, brother. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Again, my name is Austin Witsit Gets It on YouTube, and I'll catch up with you guys later. Much love. The earth is flat.
The earth is flat.
Oh, yeah.
Running through the cities in the last of days. Gotta face the truth, this is the masquerade. Waking up the public, time to liberate. No, you're doing great when they start to hate. In a world, yeah.
Stockholm Syndrome got me fighting with the slaves. But how they about to face the truth when they can't show their face? Not a system don't control me, yeah, the beast is getting slayed. Austin got the pout, they look sour, oh behave. But I'm about my father business, witness, he gon' get this praise. I ignore you cause of Torah, only thing that I obey. I ain't with the social distancing, but I'ma need my space. They be boring me with quarantine, so stay up in your place.
The masquerade, waking up the public, time to liberate. No, you're doing great when they start to hate. In a world, yeah.
I'm sorry we didn't go to the moon, bro. I'm sorry. I didn't lie to you, bro. I'm sorry. I think it'd be cool if we went to the moon too, dude. It was a cool story.